right, here we go. Here we go. All right, we are live. Let's get a few people in here.
I share it on Facebook too.
Okay. Yep. I'm checking it right now, bro. Let's see. Yes, sir. Let's get some people on. How you do this? I do not know how to do this. How you do this?
Is it live on StreamYard? I mean, live on Facebook?
Yeah, it's live on Facebook. I'm trying to.
I was trying to find where to put it.
It's on. Go to my Y.B.Normal page. I was trying to take it from my Y.B.Normal page and share it. However you do it. I don't know how you do it. But we're on Facebook. We are on Twitter, Instagram. We're on all of those
word.
platforms.
You said Y.B.Normal?
Yep.
I think this is the page right here. Okay. All right, yeah, I see this right here. I'm going to share it right now.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. There we go.
All right, yeah, I just shared it.
Me too. Alrighty. Boom. All right, I got it. There we go. It let me do it. All right, good.
Perfect.
All right, good deal. All right. Yep, I got it. It's on Twitter, LinkedIn, all of those areas. Alrighty. Well, let's get started. Let's see here. Any comments will come here. Yep. All right. All right. Yo, what's up, everybody? This is just a mental health chat. We got Mr. Nate Evans Jr. on. We brought my brother on. We wanted to, well, it was more so, just trying to figure out how we can add value to our community. My brother Nate is a phenomenal speaker. He does a lot in the mental health space. He does a curriculum. He does speaker assemblies and things of that nature. And we are connected by, our mentor and the Next Level family. And so just wanted to, just have like a little chat, man, and talk about mental health and the necessity for mentally healthy boys and why it's important. And so, we wanted to offer some resources, offer some insight, as well as just give value and give game. And so I'm super excited, man, to have Nate on this Friday, as well as, allowing him to give you all some insight and learn from him and what he's doing and stuff like that. And so, before we get started, I want to let Nate take the floor, have him introduce himself, tell people who you are, what you do, and we'll get started.
Yeah, absolutely, man. No, it's an honor. I'm grateful that we finally, we're able to coordinate to kind of get this going. So I'm excited about this conversation. It's a much needed conversation, especially as it just pertains to boys, man, and what they're going through right now. I think about myself, as a young boy and the things that I was going through. And I know it's magnified now with social media and just so many different things being thrown at them. So I'm excited about this conversation. And again, I know that it's going to bless somebody. Currently, like you were saying, we're in the same community. I would consider myself to be a consultant of sorts, educational consultant. But the reality is we're traveling and inspiring people all across the country and soon to be world through our words. I'm also an author. I have another business as well. I'm a podcaster, and I'm just really looking to impact and inspire through the things that I've learned through my own experiences, and that has landed me in the mental health space. That's where I'm prominently at when it comes to my messaging and my focus, because that was my story. So again, like I said, this topic is near and dear to my heart because it's something that I myself, went through. So I'm excited to dive in, man, and touch on some of these super, super important points.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I'm super excited as well, man. It's been a long time coming. We've been trying to get this together and everything, and just being able to, coordinate with each other's schedules and chatting with each other and stuff like that. So I'm super excited, man. But let's just get right into it, man. Like, let's touch on mental health. Like, could you, tell people out there that are listening and watching, could you just talk about mental health, what it is? Because of course we know right now, in this space, like, it's a hot word right now, right? Kind of
Hmm.
like, ACEs, which is adverse childhood experiences,
Hmm.
SEL, which is social and emotional learning, right? Like, let's talk about that. Like, let's take us down a lane, and let's go into that. So what is mental health, and things of that nature?
Yeah, so I guess the first thing to point out, because you said it's such a buzz word now, mental health, and the label is thrown on everything. We all have some sort of mental health, I would say, challenge in a sort.
Mm-hmm.
But mental health is really just like physical health. It's exactly what it says, mental health. And we stigmatize that word so much, right? Because a lot of times we place mental health, the label of mental health, where there should be actually mental illness. When something's more severe, bipolar, schizophrenia, things like that. These are the mental illnesses, but a lot of time we blanket mental health over everything. And mental health is simply what it says, your mental health. And for most people, that is anxiety, depression. Those are like the main things, especially right now with us still kind of teetering with being in the pandemic still. The main things what I've recognized that, most people are dealing with, especially students, especially young boys, is that anxiety, that depression, that stress, that worry.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I want to be able to be a part of the solution where we destigmatize mental health and make it just as relevant as our physical health. People get personal trainers, they go to group classes, but there's this thing where, especially for men, and especially for men, it's like, yo, I'm not trying to go see a therapist. It's like, nah, in my head, I see it almost as my trainer, like somebody who's helping me to mentally get better. And I think when we prioritize our mental health and remove the stigma and stop making it so much deeper than what it is, I think we'll be able to be mentally healthy. And I think that that's the goal and that's the priority for us, to be mentally healthy and mentally well. But again, when somebody says mental health, it just goes down the deep end of, oh, I'm crazy, or, I don't have this and that. And it's like, no, we all have something. You know what I mean? We all have some type of trauma we've dealt with. Obviously, some are way more severe than others, but we've all in our lifetime have experienced something that was slightly traumatizing. And it's important for us to prioritize that mental health, especially at a young age, and especially for boys, because we are emotional creatures. And a lot of times for boys and even men, honestly, we move from our emotions because we aren't mentally healthy. We aren't mentally stable. So I think that it's up of the utmost priority to focus on mental health, because then that just trickles into everything else. We want them to do well in school. All right, where are you at mentally? Like, what's going on? I know for a lot of students, coming back into the classrooms, one of the big things was, teachers were giving them all of this work and all these different things to do, but it's like, hold on, let's pump our brakes.
Mm-hmm.
I went through a lot. Y'all don't went through a lot. Let's check and see how are you, right? Before we start putting algebra in your face and all of these different things, I need
Right.
to know that mentally you're well. I don't care if you can add these numbers up or divide this or get this problem correct.
Right.
if mentally you're not in a healthy place.
Right.
So that was
Absolutely.
a bit of a long-winded answer, but yeah, mental health is just that. It's something that should be a priority for us all. Just like our physical health, we get one body. We have, this one brain that God blessed us with, and it's important for us to take care of it. The issue is it's not visible like the physical, so people ignore it because it's not the sexy thing to take care of. You know what I mean?
Hmm. And why do you think it's not the sexy thing to take care of? Because I heard you say like mental health, people deal with anxiety and depression and different things of that nature. But for the ones that don't know, they just automatically blanket, right? Like it may be a person that is schizophrenic or they are bipolar, and they just generalize it and blanket as, oh, they just have some mental health issues, right? And so I just thought, you what stood out to me was you saying like, hey, we're still teetering the pandemic, and you automatically throwing work into these scholars' faces. You know what I'm saying? And you're not asking them how are they, or you know what I'm saying? How are you mentally? How are you emotionally, and things of that nature. Like just
Mhm.
just touch on that, because I think that that's important, right? Like because I say that on why I think that it's important, because we always talk about how our babies, we tell our kids. I know specifically I tell boys like, yo, like you can do this, but I'm not telling them how they can do it sometimes, right?
Mm.
Like, I've learned with coming out of the pandemic, I'm a huge advocate for therapy. Like I don't care what it is. Anybody could tell me and be like, hey Logan, I got a headache, and I'd be like, did you go to therapy? Logan, my back hurt. Did you go to therapy? Like it don't matter what it is, because I've seen the work that it's done for me internally. And
Mm.
so, I think, mental health, like anxiety and depression, like so many people deal with that. And
Mhm.
man, why do you think that is? Why do you think, so many people deal with anxiety and depression and don't know how to combat it? And my second question is, because I said something else, but I went on a tangent. My second question is how can people combat that, right? Like what are some tools that they can use to combat depression and anxiety and things of that nature? You mind touching on that?
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of us deal with those things. What happens is we allow situations to happen that just go unaddressed. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that can have a future effect a lot of the times. I know that was the case for me with so many different things. There were issues that would happen in the moment, and I wouldn't address them, and then it would cause some level of anxiety or worry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, it can be, like I said before, traumatic situations.
Right.
It can be the conditions in which you were raised in, how
Mm-hmm.
people around you spoke, the language, the climate of what that was, right? So there's no, at some point, I believe we're all going to experience some level of it. But again, some is more severe than others. And what I realize now is a lot of it, talking to, students, talking to different individuals, is that a lot of it comes from like fear of the unknown. When you think of the anxiety part of it,
Mm-hmm.
it's like I asked a group of students the other day, I said, how many of you are nervous about like what's next after graduation? And it was like, yeah, I am, because it's just the unknown, right? And you hold on so tight to the unknown and the future that causes you to become anxious a lot of times. You know what I mean? And it's the same for all of us. You may have something that happens today, right, that throws you off your course, that rocks you a little bit mentally and emotionally, and you start predicting that for the future, like, oh, it's going to happen again. Why does this always happen to me? It's all, you hear people say it all the time, it's always something. And it's like it continues to always be something because you expect it to be.
Right.
Right. And then the same with, the people who go through that depressive state, they hold on to things way too long without
Mm-hmm.
addressing them. And that's also, problematic as well. And what I realized was that in order to really combat them both, I learned this from a gentleman. He actually passed away, I want to say last year. He
Mm-hmm.
wrote a book called, it was a book on neutral thinking. He called it neutral thinking. What is his name? Oh man, it's escaping me. Oh, Trevor Moawad. Trevor Moawad. He was like a mindset coach for like NFL players and all of
Okay.
the big colleges, football teams, the Alabamas. And he talked about this concept of like neutral thinking. He was saying like you can't go from reverse to driving your car without going past neutral. So you have to stop at neutral at some point. And the same with going backwards, you can't go without hitting neutral. Because when you're in a neutral state, you're pretty much in the present. So you're not focused on all of your energy isn't focused on some past trauma experience or some future experience that's making you anxious. You're simply here. And that's a very practical thing that I know people can apply. It's something that I do. My therapist has me on it, like whenever I'm feeling anxious or anything like that, kind of like sitting still to look at my surroundings. Like, okay, I'm in the house. This is here. Wife is cool. Okay. And then it starts to calm me down. Simple things like that. Simple things like breathing, taking a minute to breathe, take 7 deep breaths. That's about a minute long just to, again, be present. I went through a training a few years ago for yoga and they said, either, no, what they say? Either you're here or you're nowhere. Like either you're all here or you're nowhere. And I think that that's super important too, to focus on that because a lot of times it's our own narratives in our own minds that is making us anxious and or depressed. You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
we got to realize that we have the power to stop that. That means you won't ever feel anxious or depressed again, but you don't have to linger in it for days at a time. You know what I mean? Some people
Right.
are sitting in these states, and it's like, yo, we can change that in a moment if you learn to be present. And it's a practice. It's something that we weren't taught that growing up to be present. It was always focusing on the next thing. And I know for me, like growing up, it was like the next challenge, the next issue, the next bill, right? The next problem that would show up. It was never anything of like, yo, just be present in the moment and allow that to kind of, because when we do that, we can realize, like, okay, I'm good. Like,
Right.
there's stuff that needs to be worked on, but I can be present. And then when I'm present, my thoughts are a lot clearer. A lot of times when individuals are anxious, or even depressed, the stories that we tell ourselves are far more severe than the situation actually was or is, because we make it so extreme in our mind, that it's worse than
Mhm.
what it's supposed to be, and that's not true.
Mhm.
That's not true. And again, these were just small things. And one more practical thing I'll share, um, is this little recipe that I like to utilize. Is what happened, you know, how am I feeling, what's the story I'm telling myself, and what's the counter instinctual act? Meaning, all right, what happened? Why am I depressed or anxious? Like, what's up? What's going on? What was the scenario? Right? That caused me to get in this state. Okay, how am I feeling? All right, yeah, I'm really anxious right now. Okay, all right. I'm anxious. I'm gonna address that. I'm feeling a little frustrated, a little flustered. Okay. What's the story I'm telling myself? This is the most important part because this is where you can change those emotions.
Mhm.
So, yo, what am I telling myself? Am I painting this situation to be far worse than it is? And a lot of times we do. A lot of times we do. So when you realize, like, all right, the story I'm telling myself is a little off. Okay. What's the counter instinctual act that I can do that'll keep me out of harm's way, that will help me get into a better mental state? What's the next thing I can do? And once you start doing that over and over and over again, so many times it becomes natural.
Right.
And again, you're able to get yourself back into a neutral, I would say, mental state, so you're not super anxious and depressed. Like, and I'm speaking from experience. Like, I was just anxious like 2 days ago, like
Mhm.
super anxious. I'm like, yo, why am I so anxious? I couldn't even understand it. I scheduled a therapy appointment. I was sitting. I was like, all right, let's breathe. Let's breathe. What's the problem? Like, why am I anxious? Then I had to ask myself, like, yo, why? Okay, I'm feeling okay. All right. What's the story I'm telling myself? And that's where I was able
Mhm.
to kind of start slowing my heart rate down a little bit. Like, all right, cool. It's not true. And then I was like, all right, what's the counter instinctual act? I need to get up and go move. Let me go to the gym. And I'm out. I didn't just sit in it because it could have gotten worse. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I know for me, like what I do is how I counteract that is um I ask myself, who told you that?
That's good.
Right? Like instead of like, oh, Logan, what's the story? I always ask myself, like, who told you that? because
Mm,
there's been moments in my life, man, where I've gotten very anxious, or I've been depressed, or I've had some suicidal thoughts
mhm.
in regards to that, and I'm asking myself, and I learned this in therapy because me and my therapist talking, I was like, who told you that? And he was like, Logan, you have to ask yourself sometimes. Because I remember, in the height of the pandemic, you know, going through a divorce, um,
Mm.
going through catching COVID, house got hit by a tornado. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Like all of those various things, bruh. And I was like literally at one of the darkest points in my life. And I can remember, like, yo, like, I'd probably be better off in my head. That's what I'm thinking. Like, I would be better off not being here.
Mm.
And I had to like question myself. I remember sitting in the car for probably about 3 hours. And I remember asking myself, like, who told you that?
Mm.
Like Logan, who told you that you couldn't overcome these obstacles? Who told you that you couldn't come out on the other side of going through a divorce and you couldn't come back and win at life? Like, who told you that? And
Right.
once I like finally got down to the foundation of what it was internally, bro, it was myself.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Like even when there were times where I was anxious, like I realized like me having that anxious feeling or those anxious thoughts, it was me. It wasn't nobody telling me, "Oh, Logan, you X, Y, and Z," or you this, you that, and trying to talk me out of my dreams or my goals. It was just me in my head
Mm.
having imposter syndrome, right? Having that imposter syndrome to figure out, like, do I belong here? Can I get through this? And then I'm like, when I start feeling those emotions and those feelings, I'm like, who told you that?
Wow.
And that's what helped me, even with the breathing exercise, right? Like I do the breathing exercise where I sit down sometimes, bro. I'll sit down, bro, in the middle of the floor. I don't have to sit on a couch. I
Right.
can sit, you know what I'm saying? I can
Okay.
sit down in the middle of the floor, bro, and just calm myself and breathe, and it works for me. You know what I'm saying? So those two things, or those three things, including going to therapy, like those things really helped me become very self-aware and really identify who I am, you know what I'm
Mm.
saying? And who I'm becoming and things of that nature.
Mm. That's good. That's good. And that level of self. Let me ask you this: when did you kind of come into that? Like, how I would say, how old were you when you realized that? Like, what was the point when it was like, yo, I need to make that? Because a lot of people don't get that, man, at all. You know what I mean?
Bro, I'm 35 now. I started going to therapy in 2018. It took me a year and a half to open up to my therapist for us to finally make some headway.
Mm.
Because I come from a household, bro, like what goes on in this house stays in this
Stays in his
house.
house for sure.
You know what I'm saying? So when I was going to therapy, it was looked down, it was looked frowned upon, it was looked down upon. You know what I'm saying? Like, why you want to do that? Why you telling our family business? And different things of that nature. And so I'll probably say, bro, about a year and a half. So we'll probably
Wow.
say the end of 2019, going into 2020, that's where things really started to take a turn for me. And so it was just like, hey, Logan, you could sit here, you know what I'm saying? Or you could take your life. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And
Wow.
who is that going to impact, right? Who is that going to impact? Who is that going to hurt? What good would that do, right? With me
Right.
not
Right.
being here, like those were my thoughts and what I was thinking. And I remember talking to my therapist, and he was like, "Bro, like, how you feel?" And I would tell him how I felt, and he would just be like, "Man, like, tell me what's going on," and we would just have dialogue, bro, for like an hour and a half, and just go
Wow.
in, and that's what it was for me. So I'll probably say, man, probably about 33, 32, 33, somewhere around there.
Mm.
That's where I really started to become self-aware. You know what I'm saying? And just really doing the internal work, not doing the outside work, but doing the internal work, because what's on the inside is gonna come out eventually.
Mm. That's very true.
You
That's
feel me?
very true. Yeah. You can only
Because I
keep
was
it
one of
down so
those.
long.
Man, bro, we suppress it, bro. And I was one of those individuals, bro. I was one of those guys that I was I was dead on the inside, but on the
Mm.
outside, bro, I look like everything that you wanted.
Wow.
Right?
I know what that feel like.
The clothes, the shoes, the money, like all of those different things. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
The surface stuff, right? Like,
Right.
oh, I look good there, but on the inside, bro, I'm dead, bro. I'm toxic, bro.
Mm.
So it was like, yo, like I can't live like this. Like I can't pass this down to my kids. I can't let this trickle down, you know what I'm saying, from generation to generation. Like, what sense does that make? Like somebody had to step up and say, listen, the buck stopped with me. And that's what I did. Because I have kids, bro, that look up to me,
Mm.
that didn't ask to be here.
Right.
And so if I don't do what I need to do, how can I expect for them to live a fulfilled life? Or how can I expect for them to know that they are loved or appreciated and things of that nature? They are an extension of me.
Right. Right.
So for me, bro, like that's where I started taking that turning. That's where I started taking that, that's where I started turning my life around and really like let me do the internal work. Cause I remember, bro, I call it window shopping. I can remember that's what I tell people in a season in my life. I call it window shopping. You see me, right? We in the mall, you tell your girl, your wife tell you, hey, baby, or hey Nate, I want to get this, and y'all ain't got it right now, but you like, hey, just look at it.
Mm.
And I'm gonna get it for you eventually. Like that's the season that I was in, bro. I was in a window shopping season. Like I was hiding in plain sight.
Wow.
So I can remember, bro, very, very vividly, like the steps that I took. I even did journaling.
Me too.
That's how, you know what I'm saying? The social and emotional learning journals, that's how they were birthed.
Oh wow. That's dope.
Because of me journaling and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? So just like really understanding, bruh, and like really doing the work internally, bruh, because it was like I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know what I was doing. I was definitely going into an area of uncertainty, you know what I'm saying? The unknown and things of that nature. And so I just didn't really know, but I was just like, yo, Logan, like if you want different, then you got to do different. And so that's something that I tell myself is like, yo, I don't know what's over here, but I know what's over here, and I know what I get if I'm lazy, if I'm not putting the work in, if I'm not disciplined. You know what I'm saying? If I'm not taking care of my kids, like I know what all that is over here. Let's go over here and let's see what happens over here. And so, that's when things really started to change for me, bro. And I was just like, okay, all right, I think I'm gonna continue to go this way. So,
Mm. That's real,
bro,
bro.
man,
I must
listen.
actually have a very, very similar analogy with that, where it's like, yo, I know what this feels like, but I don't know what that is. Like, I know what pain and stuff feels like. I've like normalized that, but I don't know what this is, but I need to see what it is. And
Mm,
you almost have to be the trailblazer. And what I realized for me was doing that, it inspired other people who were close to me in my life to start on their own healing journey. And it was like almost like they wanted permission or something. Not that they needed it from me, but it's like, yo, I seen that Nate did it. All right, I'm gonna try. You know what I mean? And I think that that's important for somebody listening because you never know who you can be inspiring through your own healing and your own growth, your own personal development. Like it's a lot. Like you said, it's bigger than you.
right,
You got people, kids watching you. It's like, yo, that's huge. And a
right.
lot of times, selfishly, we can get in our own way and in our own heads, and we don't realize like we are impacting a bunch of different people even if they
Absolutely.
don't say anything to us, there's always somebody watching from afar, just seeing how you move and operate. And I know for me, I was like, yo, I want to get to a place of healing, like, because I was going through so much
Hmm.
dark spots, you know what I mean? Suicidal ideations, all of these things. And then doing that consistently, it's like people in my life was like, yo, I got some stuff I need to address as well. And it's beautiful to see. You know what I mean? It's beautiful to see. So, I love that, man. I love that a lot, and I think that it's important again for anybody watching that may catch this now or later to realize, like, yo, it's bigger than you.
Mm-hmm.
While it's about you, while it's about your healing and your growth, it's like it's going to influence somebody else. They may
Yep.
not come up to you like, yo, man, you changed my life. And it's like, honestly, that don't even matter. Just know that there's somebody, right? There's definitely somebody. So that was good, man. That was really good.
Absolutely, bro. Let me ask you, do you feel seen? Was there a moment, let me say it like this. Was there a moment or a time in your life where um you felt like you wasn't seen or heard as a male?
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
Let's
For
touch on
sure.
it.
For sure. Man, growing up, man, it was crazy. You know what I mean? And in the community that I grew up in, I feel like you couldn't express yourself as a male, especially as like a young black boy.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't express how you felt. And I think that that was critical because that's when I felt seen and heard was when I was able to express my emotions. You know, a lot of times people seen me playing sports. I was recognized for playing sports. I was recognized for being an all-star athlete. But it's like when that stops, you know, who am I? Are you still going to acknowledge me? Are you still going to love me without me performing? And that took a long time, man. I remember going through a lot. Even me and my pops, we went through some stuff as well, where I was just like, man, I feel like he don't like see me like how I feel doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Why
And I
did you
mean,
feel like that?
uh, I think that it's one of them things like it trickled down from generations. You know what I mean? It was one of those things where hit my dad's generation and the generation prior to that, it was kind of like, you know, the man comes, works, provides for the house, and that's it. He's not emotionally there. He's not emotionally available. He's simply just the financial provider. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like that gets passed down. It's almost like, yo, how do I create a space where my children can feel loved and feel seen and feel like their voices matter? Because
Right.
again, it's one of those things when adults are talking, you're not talking. If you got a problem, you're not saying nothing because it don't matter. We're not trying, hey, stop crying if I give you a reason to cry. You know, just these little things that we just kind of pass down. And it's like, yo, we have to realize at the end of the day, everybody is a human being, including the boys, including your kids. And sometimes they have some things to say and express. Now there's a level of respect that needs to be there, but it's like once you start to mute their voice, that trickles on into teen years to adult years, and then you have this person who's an adult who's afraid to use their voice, who's never really felt seen or heard, and they play it small. They always dumb themselves down because of how they were raised.
Right.
So for me, I went through that for a while, and I felt like sports was all I was valuable for. And I had to
Mm.
find myself outside of that. And we had some tough conversations, you know, a few falling outs and things, but we got to a point where it's like we're able to see and love each other for who we are. And that's
Mm-hmm.
something that I'm big on. Like whenever I'm speaking to boys, whenever I'm speaking to anybody in general, it's like, yeah, I want you to know that your voice is valuable, that I see you and that I hear you and that I love you. And boys need that a lot because we live in a country, especially if you're a young male of color, where you're seen as a problem before you're seen as a person. So a lot of times people don't see you as the person. You're a problem already. You already have a target on you. And it's like I want to let you know that like, look, I don't want nothing from you, but I see you, I hear you. I'm here to listen to you, you know, whatever you're going through, your challenges. I want to hear about your wins. I want to hear about the losses. I want to hear about it all. You know what I mean? And I think that that's important because a lot of times as adults, what I realize, adults come in, and this is where the divide is at a lot of times. We come trying to teach, 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 give, but we haven't listened to the actual problem of what I may be going through. You know what I mean? Because we assume, you know what I
Absolutely.
mean? So it's like a lot of times what I realize is the generation that precedes me, they have a disconnect with Gen Z. And it's because, you know, they just don't understand. It's like, yo, why is social media this and why they stressed about this? And it's like, honestly, if you grew up in their world at their time, you may have these same issues.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
for me, it's allowing people to feel seen and heard. And a lot of times that's just simply listening. A lot of times we don't listen. Problems can be solved if we listen to what the problem is before we try to bring a solution. But that's just something we all have to work on, you know what I mean? And I know for me, that was a huge thing where I just didn't feel seen. I didn't feel heard. I felt lonely a lot of times. And it doesn't mean that it was true, but this is how I felt. And I
Right.
often didn't feel like I was able to talk to nobody about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? I didn't feel like nobody created a space where I felt safe enough to share, like, hey, this is what I'm really going through. Because
Right.
the outside looks good. Like you said, I had the sneakers, I had the clothes, I had the stuff. I'm an all-star player. Da, da, da. I had, you know what I mean? It looks good. And it's like, man, if people find out who I really am, is that going to turn them away? Are they going to still love me? And that was something that I had to grow through my own healing, through therapy, through countless hours of just trying to develop and grow. And from there, things grew. And that's like one of my life missions. I was just at a mental health event that I put together Wednesday when I was like, yo, I want y'all to feel seen and heard. This ain't about me. This ain't about the business. This ain't about none of that stuff. This is about y'all. And I want you to come up here and share what's on your heart. And we want to create a space for you where you can feel safe and protected, not feel like somebody's going to try to use and abuse whatever you say. So that's important, man, that we provide that, especially like I said, for young boys, they need to feel seen and heard because a lot of times they're looked at as like I said, problems before, but then even for so many of our young boys, a lot of times they're looked at as just their bodies. So you see a young male who's, he's 6 foot, he's 6'1", he getting taller. Oh, you play ball? You know what I mean? It's like we throw him in there already, and it's like, hold on, wait a minute. That's all you got from him? Is he does he play ball? Like, what if he don't like sports at all?
Right.
Is he no longer valuable to you?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So it's just
Yeah.
recognizing people for who they are and allowing people to fully be themselves and feel comfortable being that.
Absolutely, bro. I love that. We got somebody that said, absolutely, Nate. I have that same hat. That's my godmom, man. She said she got the same hat that you got. So,
Thank you, thank you.
shout
One
out,
of my
to
favorite
my
hats.
godmom, man. Hey, Mama Kim, how you doing? I love you. Thank you for supporting and being on with us. We really appreciate that. Let me ask you, man, why do you think, let's talk about this real quick, and we'll I promise you I'm gonna spin the block back around about mental health and what we're talking about. But why do you think boys need mentors? Because I heard you say, Logan, I
Mhm.
just put an event together, you know what I'm saying? And I told, listen, it ain't about me, you know what I'm saying, and different things of that nature. This is, want you to come up here, express how you feel. It's not going to be used against you and things of that nature. Why do you think boys need mentors? Why are mentors important for boys?
Yeah, I think it's critical, and I think that boys need positive mentors. I'll say that they
Mhm.
need the right mentors because there's so many distractions in the world today. I was literally just it's crazy. I was just talking to my brother and my dad. We got a group chat. My brother put in a video from like Facebook of all of these young boys. Probably they had to be in like middle school or going into high school,
Okay.
holding like guns and stuff at their
Right.
graduation
Right.
and all of these different things. I'm like, yo, this is what happens when you don't have positive mentors in your life to kind of lead and guide you.
Facts.
You're now being led by what's popular. You're now being led by music. You're now being led by social media.
Right.
And there's so many different things that's ready to grab your hand and pull you along. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like when you have those right mentors, when you have those people in your life who can give it to you real, who
Mm-hmm.
will love on you and have your best interests at heart, the
Mm-hmm.
possibility of you becoming a positive, comprehensive man in the future is much more likely. I was just speaking to a basketball team the other day, and the head coach was my coach when I was playing AAU, and I'm like, yo, I owe a huge portion of, just gratitude to him for how he led me, not as just a basketball player, but how he exemplified how to be a man.
Right.
It translated over to me now on how I, love my wife and how we're going to build a family and things like that. So it's super critical because that's somebody who's been there before you. You know what I mean? A positive person that's been there before you doesn't mean that they're perfect, but again, they have your best interests at heart, and they
Right.
are doing they are living in a positive way that's impactful. So it's like you need that. We all need some level of guidance because you're going to go through this life, and again, there's so many different things. So something is going to lead you. You know what I mean? Kids don't just wake up and want to be in the streets and want to do these certain things. It's like, nah, they were mentored into that lifestyle. Growing
Mm-hmm.
up where I grew up in the hood, a bunch of dudes was in the street that got killed that had no business being there. That wasn't about that life, right?
Right.
And the reason was because the people who they were looking up to, again, they mentored and groomed them to continue the cycle of being in the streets. Nobody
Mhm.
came along like, yo, we getting you out of here. You're much smarter than this. I want to put you in a program. I want to get you over here. I want to
Right.
take you on a trip and expose you. So it's
Mhm.
like, yo, we all need those mentors, and it's important for us, the men that are watching, that are tapping in. Look, to just reach back and mentor somebody. I'm not telling you to start a mentoring program. I'm not telling you to go to teach at a school, but there's somebody in your life right now who
Right.
you can just use a little guidance, right? That you can share your phone number with, right? That
Absolutely.
can text you whenever they're going through something. Like everybody needs that. So I think that is super, super critical. That boys have mentors in some capacity.
Right.
And that us as men, that we reach back and help, man. Because honestly, for us, somebody helped us at some point.
Right.
I have several men in my life who, they were positive examples. And even though I kind of, veered off here and there, something that they did or said always stuck with me.
Mhm.
And for me, something that was huge was I never wanted to disappoint them.
Right.
And I remember feeling like, damn, I don't want to let them down. Like that's he's held it down for me. Like he's somebody who supported me even when he had his own family. So
Right.
it's important for us to pay it forward, man. That's what life is about, paying it forward in that way. And again, we can really change the the trajectory of a young man's family and his lineage simply by being a positive mentor. Because the people who were in my life who poured into me, they have no idea. Like they just changed my lineage because of who I'm becoming.
Mhm.
Right. So when I have my child, it's like he's going to be raised by a comprehensive, solid man. And we're going to continue that cycle, all because somebody cared enough to just briefly mentor me. So it's huge,
Absolutely.
man. It's important.
Most definitely. I think for why boys need mentors is because people's sons, they need an image or a vision of who they could be in the future.
Mm,
Like just as simple as that, bro. Like I ain't got to go into great detail or anything, but I think that when they see people that for example, right, when kids in the African American community or urban community, whatever you want to call it, when they see a vision, when they see a version of them that is successful, then to them they see what's possible,
mm,
right? Like for me, when I first got into this space of speaking and going into schools and stuff like that, for me, bro, it was Eric Thomas,
same, same.
right? Like that's who it was for me. That's the lineage that that I came from, right? Like same thing with our mentor with Jeremy. Like that's the
Hmm.
lineage and where he came from, right? Like other people that are in the space, you know what I'm saying, in the speaking space, like Toby, for example, right? Like he comes from that tree, right, of Eric Thomas. And so I just think, bro,
Mm,
like ET showed me what was possible, right?
right.
Jeremy showed us what was possible, right? I have some other mentors that have showed me, you know what I'm saying, what was possible. Like, my pastor, right? Like he helped me with my faith walk. He showed
Wow.
me what was possible. You know what I'm saying? Like he showed me how to turn the other cheek, how to forgive quickly, how to walk in love. You know what I'm saying? Like he showed me those things. So I
That's
think that
what's
it's
up.
important, bro, for us to be able to see people that look like us, that that really have a heart for the youth and things of that nature, so that way they can see what's possible. And so I think
Absolutely.
I think that that's important. So let me ask you, man, how are you helping, or better yet, how can we help our boys express their emotions? How can we help them do that? Like what are some tools, what are some resources that people could use in the community to help our babies, especially our boys, like be able to express themselves
Mm.
without feeling shunned or feeling like they're not being seen and things of that nature.
Yeah, so there's several things, but I'll hit on the main ones. Because there's several different resources and different mentor groups and things that you can put the boys in. But I think the most effective thing is to exemplify the behavior.
Okay.
So be the example, because again, they live in your house.
Hmm.
If they come to me, they with me for a small amount of time. I can have my
Right.
impact, but they're going to see how you live and operate every single day.
Right.
So if they see you being someone who's, emotionally fluent, someone who's being able to express their emotions in a healthy way, and you're showing them these things, I
Mm-hmm.
think that's the most powerful way. There's only but so much we can say that we learn, but I realize that we all learn from what we see and how we see certain things exemplified. So example is this. Say if, me and my wife, we have a child and we want to teach this child conflict resolution. Is I can sit you down and give you a lesson on it. I can try to explain it to you. But what better way to show you than us having an actual, I would say, argument or debate, but
Right.
then working that thing out in front of you without raising our voice crazy, but coming to a solution. And it's like, I watched my parents do that for a while and they were really good. That's how I learned how to do it, through example. So it's the same thing with our emotions. When they can see that you're someone who knows how to manage and control your emotions, they start to learn those habits, man. I think that's the most important thing. It's like, be the example of what you want to see, which means that a lot of us are going to have to do some work, which isn't a bad thing at all. It's a great
Right.
thing. And a
Right.
beautiful thing about that is as they see you do the work, um, it will encourage them to do the same at some point.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think that that's important. It's like build those daily habits. It's like waking up every morning, I don't know, to go to the gym or pray and meditate and do your thing. It's like, once they see that after a few times, it's like, hey, can I come? Can I try?
Mm-hmm.
And then they get in that routine and flow. But the issue is we try to teach them things that we don't do.
Right.
So I'm trying to tell you, you need to work on your attitude when mine's is terrible. I'm
Come
trying
on.
to tell you, like, all right, look, emotionally, you need to be here. You need to be able to control this. But anytime something happens or somebody say something wrong or I get cut off when I'm driving down the road, I'm flipping the bird, I'm going bananas. And it's like, I'm a poor example. It's like for them, it's confusing. It's just like, all right, which one is it? Like, you told me to do this, but you're doing this.
Right.
It's like the old adage where they be like, do as I say, not as I do.
Not as I do.
That was a huge
Absolutely.
thing when I was growing up. Everybody smoking, yo, out of here, do as I say, not as I do. And it's just like, hold on, wait a minute.
Wait, what?
Yeah, right. Because we look up to you. So it's like I'm trying to do what you do. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like the biggest thing I believe that we can do is really, really just work on our own healing and then exemplify what that looks like in front of them. So if that's journaling every day, I'm journaling. Hey, why you journaling? Oh, this is why. Oh,
Right.
wow. Okay. Oh, I'm reading, I'm trying to learn more. I'm going for walks. You know what I mean? I'm meditating, I'm doing breathing, whatever that is. You exemplify that thing, man. And it's huge. I have when I did my TED talk, I shared an example of this. There was these two young boys. They were young too. I'm talking like 6 and 4 years old. And the 4 year old was having a whole like meltdown because his Nintendo Switch controller was like dead or something like that. Sounds crazy. And the
Right.
6 year old brother was like, he started doing breathing exercises with him, like, let's, and then it worked. Like, and within a matter of like a minute or two, he was like, you good? I'm good to go. You know what I mean? Six and
Right.
4 years old. And it's like, where'd y'all get that from? Oh, the mom does it with him all the time. Oh, snap. She had to sit down and try to teach them nothing. She just exemplified it. So I know that that's a simplistic answer, but I think it's the most potent and makes the most sense. I've seen it play out in so many different ways. And again, there's many different resources. You can jump on YouTube. There's a bunch of different videos and shows that talk about it. I have a book that speaks on these things as well, and there are several others which are great to get. But your most valuable asset is going to be how you exemplify these behaviors.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, bro. That's good, bro. Oh, that's good. That's good. That's good. Let's talk about ACEs, man. Let's talk about ACEs for those that don't know what ACEs is. ACEs is adverse childhood experiences.
Mhm.
Um, how does that impact our boys? Let's touch on that.
Ooh, man, aces, adverse. It's crazy. 'Cause I didn't know about aces until I wrote my book, which was like,
Really,
yeah, probably a little over. I started the book in 2019. I didn't know about aces until 2019, bro.
you
And
know
I was
they
at
got
a
a
conference and I
they
learned
have
it.
a it's a show. I think it's on Hulu. I think Paper Tigers. You ever seen that?
Nah, but I'm gonna watch it.
It's about ACEs. So it's about this
Write that down.
school that's in a very small community. I had one of my good friends. Um, he did a speaking engagement there, so I gave him some insight and some pointers and stuff like that. And he went there to speak, and that was like his very first speaking engagement. And
Wow.
They deal with a lot of ACEs. They talk about ACEs, how it impacts the children at the school and different things of that nature. But really, 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 really good, man. And I think it's funny that you talk about that because I went through ACEs as well. I'm certified in ACEs as well, and it's just, bro, like to see, man, to see how it impacts us, right? Like
Mm.
see how ACEs impacts people in the community that deal with trauma and different things of that nature, bro. Like my mind sometimes, well, not anymore, but it used to be where my mind would be blown when I was going through the class because I would be like, "Oh, bro, I experienced that,"
Mhm.
or I know somebody that experienced that and they went through that. Like, oh, so that explains why he act or respond the
That
way
way.
that he does
Yep.
when he's enduring some type of trauma. And I
Mhm.
was like, oh, this make all the sense in the world. Like, okay,
Right,
I
right.
need to figure out how can I change this and combat this, right?
Right.
Because even for me, like the trauma that I experienced, I was like, bro, like, how can I fix this? Not how can I handle this or how can I was trying to figure out like, okay, if this is my response to trauma, then I need to figure out what is my response to healing.
Mm. That's good.
So I had to unlearn, like 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 one of my good friends, my sister. She's a big sister to me, and her name is LaQuisha Ewing, and she has a company that's called Unlearn Everything and Live. And so um, every time I used to see her be like unlearn, and I remember I asked her one day, and I was like, "What does that mean?" And I remember her telling me like unlearning all of the things that you were taught, and I was like, man, like, dang.
Mm.
I had to sit in that for a second because I was like, dang, like I have been taught some things that I shouldn't have, you know what I'm saying? I shouldn't have to
Right,
experience
right.
or went through. But anyways, man, let's touch on that. Like, could you talk about adverse childhood experiences and how that impacts our boys?
Yeah, yeah. So I'll definitely talk about that. And I want to share one thing from what you just said about unlearning. Um, for those of you listening, it's just one of those things where our parents or whoever raised us are our first teachers. So we
Hmm.
take everything that they say as fact. And it took for me being to a point where it's like I had to question a lot of things I was, raised learning. Um,
Hmm.
and it wasn't out of a disrespectful way. It's just like I feel like at some point everybody should question what they learned
Right.
just to kind of measure it out. So I think that's important to hear and to do as well. Now for ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, this is huge, man, because like I said, when I first learned about it, like you, I'm like, yo, I experienced this, like my score is through the roof. Hold on. This is why I'm okay. All
Bro,
right.
I was ashamed when I seen my score. I was like, they were like, anybody got this score? I ain't even want to raise my hand. I was
Right.
like,
That's yo, bro. I felt the same way. I'm thinking like, yo, this is crazy. Like I experienced like almost all of these things. And for me, it was helpful because it almost put like language to why I was feeling certain ways. It put like
hmm.
a reason behind, you know what I mean? And it was like this doesn't mean that you're gonna be this way, but it's a high probability. So when I think of like, as we talk about this subject, especially for boys, it's like, yo, what are those adverse experiences that they're going through? And how can we almost combat those things immediately? And there's several different experiences on there that
Right.
pretty much lead to you almost living like this traumatized lifestyle. And it doesn't mean anything's wrong with you. It just means that you've experienced some stuff. And I want people to hear that because a lot of people feel like it's something wrong with them. And there's nothing wrong with you. Like, no, you've just experienced some stuff and a lot of stuff you had no control over. Like you were just subject to it. And it was what it was. I went through a lot growing up that I just had no control over as a kid. I was just subject
Right.
to it,
Right.
which raised that ACEs score. But what it does is it helps you to recognize, okay, these are the things that happen. This is my number. Okay, this explains why I felt this way or I've been this way, but it also shows me that I don't have to stay this way. You know what I mean? It shows me like I don't have to stay this way. Like for me, when I saw my score, I was like, oh my goodness. But then it made me realize, like, okay, there's a solution. I can make a change. I can either stay what this score says, because all it does is it's not telling you like who you are. It's just a reflection of like these are the things you've experienced, right? And a lot of people like, man, that's my number. Shoot, that's my new label now. And it's like that doesn't have to be your label. This is just what it is. How can you change it now? Because now you're fully responsible for changing this number, for
Yep.
changing the outcome. So for me, it was huge to see that because it gave me a marker. Because I didn't know how bad it was until I seen the numbers. And I think that
Right.
that's important too. That's like you gaining a bunch of weight, right? And your clothes fitting different. You're just like, I'm cool. But you don't really know nothing until you jump on the scale. You be like, oh, snap, I'm wilding. Like, hold on, how'd I get 20, 30 pounds over where I'm supposed to? Nah, I'm wilding. Hold on. Prior to that, you just like, I'm coasting. You know what I mean, my shirt fit a little different. I'm cool right now.
Right.
I'm still feeling healthy. And it's like, nah, bro, you got to get them numbers checked. I know for me, this is probably like 2 years ago, I had high blood pressure. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know. You know what I mean? Until I went to the doctor, she checked those numbers, like, yo, you have high blood pressure. I was like, really? She was like, yeah, we need to like address this ASAP. And in my head, I'm thinking,
Wow.
I'm healthy, I'm good, I'm in the gym. Come to find out, I got some issues that need to be addressed. And it's the same with the ACEs. It's just showing you really what needs to be addressed and how severe it is. Because a lot of times we normalize the pain and the trauma and the things we go through, and we don't realize like how severe that wound is. You know what I mean?
Oh,
I think
most
that's
definitely.
important.
Absolutely, bro. Like, I know for me, my number, like I said, bro, I was embarrassed. And I remember very vividly, bro. I was embarrassed. And I remember them talking about, so when I did ACES, we did a thing where um they talked about the mice. So do you remember that, where the mice
Mm-hmm.
were scared of the strawberries, and then they had a kid, and then the kid was scared of the strawberries and all that type of stuff? Do you remember that?
Oh, I remember that part.
All right, so I'm finna go down this path. So they did a study. I think it was at Harvard, I think, or it may have been schooling out west. But anyways, they did a study, and they had mice and they had strawberries. So every time the mice would, so what they did is they had the mice and the strawberries. They put the mice to go get the strawberries and all that type of stuff. So after a while, they let the mice get the strawberries. They kept doing it, kept doing it. So what they started doing was is they started zapping, right? They started electrocuting the mice.
Mm,
Every time they would see a strawberry or go towards it or make a move towards it, they would start electrocuting them or tasing them or
wow.
whatever it is that they use, right? So what happened was is that they kept doing that, and they kept doing it. I think they said for like a few months or whatever. They kept doing it. Well, what happened was is that those mice had babies. So what do you think when they had what do you think happened when those babies were birthed and they seen strawberries?
Wow. They're already traumatized.
Exactly. And
Wow.
so it talked about how we pass down trauma from generation to generation. In my mind, bro, I was like, wow, like that's me. That's me. Like I was, molestation ran in my family, right? Like it happened to, some of my aunts. It happened to some of my cousins. It happened to me.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying? Um, Alcohol and drug abuse, right?
mhm.
Like that was passed
Man,
down from generation to generation. Um, Even to the point is something as simple as, bro, the way that we communicate with each other, right? Like
wow.
I can remember, bro, where it was a struggle, bro, for a long time. And again, I'm 35, so I can remember, bro, for a very, very long time, bro. It was a struggle for my grandmother to tell me that I love you.
Mm,
Something as simple as that. I remember I used to tell my grandmother every time I left the house, "Ma, I love you. I love you, Ma. You know what I'm saying? I'll see you later. I love you." Da 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 da. She would never say "I love you" back. She would always say "mm-hmm." I remember when our house, when like I said, in the height of the pandemic, our house got hit by the tornado, and I remember we were staying at an Airbnb that I was paying for, and I remember asking my grandmother one day. I said, "Mom," I asked her, I said, "Why you don't never say I love you back when I tell you I love you?" And she said, she's like, my parents never told me that they love me. She said, I just always did it with my actions. So I wanted you to see that, you know what I'm saying, I love you by making sure you got a roof over your head, making sure you have, food to eat, you know what I'm saying? Making sure that you have the necessities and things of that nature. And bruh, it hit me. And I was like, oh, bruh, nobody loved on my grandmother emotionally. So that's why she doesn't give me the emotional things that I need, because nobody loved on her emotionally. You know what I'm saying? And it's not to say that she didn't love me, because she did. You know what I'm saying? She took care of me. She had me, you know what I'm saying? I didn't come out of her womb, but she took care of me since I was a baby. So, to me, she is my mother. You know what I'm saying? But what I realized was like, oh, okay, this is why you don't tell me you love me, because your parents didn't tell you that. You know what I'm saying? And you didn't go to your kids and tell your kids, hey, I love you. Let me love on you. Let me be there for you emotionally. Right. So I realized all of that. And like I said, when I was going through class, just something, you know what I'm saying? Something as simple as that, bro. Like I could recall, like I said, like you can pass down trauma. Like people think like, oh no, you can't. No, you can. You can pass down trauma. You can pass down certain things that you think your kids won't see or that your kids won't experience, but bro, it happens. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm just like, dang, bro, like that was me when I was going through, the trauma and things of that nature. And that's no knock on my grandmother. You know what I'm saying?
No.
That ain't to say she's a bad parent or anything like that. It's just that's just how she was raised.
Yeah.
And you have to accept that. And you have to be okay with that. So
Yeah, and you have to have a level of grace. I know for my parents, there was a lot, that I felt like was wrong, but it was like I gotta have grace because when I sat down and talked with them about how they were raised, I was like,
mhm,
dang, like y'all was raised in a crazy way. And
right,
I had to step out of the child role and see them as humans as well. To be like, yo, y'all are somebody else's like child. Like, how
fact,
are you raised? What'd you have to go through? And I was like,
right,
oh, that not justifying what you did or said, but it explained it to me, and I was able to
absolutely,
have grace for that. You know what I mean? And I think that we all, at some level, deserve that grace. Like you were saying, even for your grandmother, it's just like, oh, okay, that's how she did what she knew. You know what I mean?
right,
And we have an
right,
opportunity
absolutely,
to kind of grow from that. But sometimes what happens is we try to like almost bash the people who raised us. I've been around people who like, well, because of you, because of this. It's like they did what they knew to the best of their ability.
facts,
Some were better than others, but it's like, yo, have grace because you also weren't them. Like they were raised 9 times out of 10 in a much more severe way.
absolutely, yeah, man.
So yeah, that grace is important
Whew.
for the healing and growth, man.
Man, that grace is the for me, that grace was the foundation,
Mhm.
especially with having relationships with my biological parents. Like that grace, bruh, that was the foundation, bruh. Like I was just like, yo, because where I was at mentally and where my heart was at, like I was like, yo, like y'all could die, and I ain't gonna shed a tear.
Mm. Wow.
Like that's how hard my heart was. You know what I'm saying? Like, my dad, I remember a time like I was like, yo, my dad could die, bro. I won't, my biological father could die, bro. I won't shed a tear, bro.
Wow.
I'll go to the funeral and pay my respects, but bro, you won't get no emotion out of me.
Mm.
And it was if it wasn't for grace, bro, you know what I'm saying? And then,
Right.
like you said, having that talk with your parents, like, bro,
It's
your
important.
parents did the best that they could in that moment and in their time in their life. You know what I'm saying? So who am I to judge you for the decision that you made?
Absolutely. And it's up for
Like,
us to do better.
bro, I'm telling you, bro.
Yeah, it's up for
You
us
know
to
what
do
I'm
better
saying?
for the next generation. So I think that
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think that that's big, bro. I think that that's important. So, for me, I was just like, oh, okay, I got you. Absolutely. So I had to really understand how to give grace. Then I also had to understand how to receive grace.
yeah, that's a huge one, man. That's one I had. That was a hard lesson for me. Not so
So
hard on myself. I was like, I had to learn and receive it. Like, oh snap, okay,
absolutely, bro. All right, so before we get up out of here, man, I got one more question.
for
And
sure.
then of course, man, if you can let people know how they can get in contact with you, and we'll close it out and stuff like that. The necessity for emotionally fluent boys,
Oh man.
right? Why is it a necessity for our boys to be emotionally fluent?
Yeah, that's a major necessity because of everything that I kind of shared earlier in regards to them being targets,
Mm-hmm.
in regards to them having so many different things coming up against them. What I mean by that, when I say the necessity of building emotionally fluent boys, or the necessity for the need of it, is teaching them to be better decision makers. I know a bunch of young boys now who are in, the Juvenile Justice Commission, or in the facilities, a bunch of dudes who are in prison right now, a bunch of dudes who are dead right now, actually.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's because of the decisions. It's the decisions, you know what I mean? It's one of those things where we need to teach you to override the emotion, not to ignore the emotion, feel the emotion for sure, but what's the decision that you're making when your emotions are high? Because a lot of times you make a decision in a matter of seconds that costs you 20, 30, 40, or the rest of your life. And I think that that's why it's a necessity. Because again, as males, people don't want to believe it. They say women are emotional. It's like, nah, as men, we really emotional. We super emotional. So if you're emotionally fluent, you're able to, in a way, feel anger, feel frustration, feel these things, but then make a decision again that doesn't harm you or anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's a powerful skill to have. That's like super control right there that you have over yourself. Because right now, it's so many young boys out here. It's wild, man, just running out shooting each other. You know what I mean? Just doing all of these dumb things. Like, yo, what happened? And then when you break it down to the root of what the issue was, you're like, this is what y'all beefing over?
Right.
This is where this energy is coming from. But there you're running on this high of energy, and it's like, I'm making a decision right now. I don't care about nothing else. I don't care about my future. Da 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 da. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this trigger. I'm gonna hurt him. I'm gonna hurt myself. Whatever the case is, it doesn't matter. This is how I feel in this moment. And when you're emotionally fluent, you're able to feel those things and be like, you know what? It ain't even worth it. And I want more of our boys to be like, yo, it ain't worth it. Because you throw away so much. There's so many dudes, man, that I talk to is like, yo, if I can do it over again. I remember Wallow 267, who spent like 20 something years in prison. He was like, yo, 5 minutes for 20 years. You know what I mean? And it's just like, yo, when we can really grasp the concept of being, emotionally fluent and teach it to our boys young, the chances of them being better decision makers as they grow um, is much higher. You know what I mean? So I think that is critical to have that skill set. That should be something that should be taught in like elementary school.
Right. Oh, most definitely. Because they have that what is it, third grade to prison pipeline.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So I think that that's very, very important, right? If you can get you can get kids, what I'm saying, on track from kindergarten to third grade, and then they can turn out to be something different. That's a project that we're working on here, um, on my side with Y.B.Normal and my team and stuff. We're working on a character development book for kindergarten through third grade. And they can learn how to write and trace words and all those different things. Because I think that that's important, right? I remember, I had a kid a few years back in our curriculum development program, and he was a fifth grader on a first grade reading level.
Ooh, wow. Wow.
A fifth grader on a first grade reading level. And I can remember, bro, like just talking to the principal, talking to the teachers that have, that have been there with him, talking to the special needs teacher that was there, I'm saying, even talking to his mom, right? Like me and my partner, we were talking, talking to, folks, and they were just like, they were just telling us from the time he stepped foot in that school to the 5th grade, like this was his track record and stuff like that. And he went through our program and he bumped up 2 reading levels. So I thought that was, what I'm
Fire right
saying,
there.
super.
That's what's up.
I thought that was amazing to be able to have him experience that, because now he sees like, okay, I can do this. You know what I'm saying? Like this
That's
is
important right
possible for
there.
me,
That's
bro.
important right there. When you say that, like, yo, I didn't know I can do this.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And once you see it, nah, that's good, bro. Because I remember being a director over the Boys and Girls Club, and we had these workforce programs.
Okay.
And for the students that were there, they had to like take a course and pass these tests. And it's like, man, I can't do this.
Right.
And then when they actually passed it through the teaching that was there, and they passed it with like flying colors, they was like, yo, I didn't know I can. And it just like it lit something up in them to be like, yo, I can be more. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's powerful, bro.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Most definitely, bro. Hey, bro, tell people before we get off here, man. Listen, we've been ran past our time, man. Before we get off here, man, let people know how they can get in contact with you, website, any other upcoming projects or anything like that. Let people know how they can reach out to you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. First, thank you, brother, for having me on the platform. It was a pleasure to talk about this. I look forward to coming back at some point. Also, bringing you over to some of my stuff as well. Because again, these conversations are needed. And for those of you watching, this is really a solid brother right here. Met him a few months ago, and we just clicked. So thank you again for having me. If you want to follow me or anything like that, or support. I'm pretty much at Nate Evans Jr. on all social media platforms. That's just my name. And then my website is the same, nateevansjr.com. You can, see my engagements, TED Talks, videos, content, books, booking information, whatever it is, my YouTube channel, bunch of free resources on there. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Nate Evans Jr. pretty much on everything. I don't know how I was able to do that, but it worked out. So.
Absolutely. And then, bro, before we get out of here, bro, just leave people with a piece of motivation, man. And then let's close it out.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. For everybody that tuned in, thank y'all for tuning in. If you're just watching this later on, thank you for checking it out as well. I think that it's important. We shared earlier about working on yourself, healing, and really developing yourself personally, realizing that you're an example to somebody else, even if you never meet them. There's always somebody watching and gleaming from you, and you have a responsibility to show up and be the best version of yourself, which means taking care of yourself mentally and emotionally, as well as physically and all those other things as well. So realize that it's bigger than you. It's bigger than you. And it's important that you take care of you. Make yourself the priority, because there is somebody else out there just gleaming and wanting to see how you operate and how you live. And your life is going to influence and impact somebody else.
Hey, listen, I heard what he said. It ain't about you at the end of the day. It's bigger than you, right? And so, Nate, bro, let me give you your flowers while we're here. Like, I'm big on giving people their flowers while they can still smell them, bro.
Appreciate that.
I want to say thank you. You know what I'm saying, for coming on here. Thank you for, really hearing my idea and helping me bring this to fruition, bro. And bro, thank you for answering the calling, bro. Like, for real, dude. Like, there's not many people, bro, that really know their purpose and their calling and who they're supposed to be and what they're supposed to be doing. So, bro, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, bro, for answering the calling and being one of those positive people, and spreading light in our community, bro. So I really appreciate you, man. Thank you for coming on here. Thank you for being a part of this, bro. Thank you for being my brother. And listen, man, y'all heard what he said, bro. This mental health chat was brought to you by Y.B.Normal. Listen, guys, listen. Please make sure you share this with your network. Please make sure you all leave some comments. Tell us what your takeaways are. You know what I'm saying? Share this with the people in your community, man, because Nate really dropped some gems. He gave you some resources. He gave you some tools on how to combat anxiety, how to combat depression. We talked about ACEs and adverse childhood experiences and how it impacts our boys and how it impacted our own lives, right? Nate is certified in ACEs and he is certified in ACEs and adverse childhood experiences. I'm certified in ACEs and in childhood experiences. But again, man, this ain't about me. This is about our community, and this is about bringing people on that are doing the work and how can we add value and make an impact. So again, guys, listen, man, thank you all. Thank you for the love and the support and the people that come on here and interact with us. Nate, bro, thank you, bro. And listen, guys, reach Nate at www.nateevansjr.com. I'm gonna say it one more time in case you didn't catch it. www.nateevansjr.com. All right. So listen, guys, we'll see y'all again soon. Nate, my brother, thank you, bro. I love you, bro, and I appreciate you. And peace. We'll see y'all soon.